the gap, standing for Jesus. Standing in the gap for family and friends. Standing in the gap, one love for all, so we all can make it in.
We have dedicated a certain portion of this broadcast to what we call the Gap News. And the Gap News is basically keeping us up on current events, things that are happening. That spiritual warfare is happening today. Not only happened in the past, it's happening today. And so you need to be aware of what's happening. And Marvel is taking on that task to present you each week a issue of Gap News current events. And Marvel, what you got for us this week?
This week, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm enjoying doing the Gap News because I'm telling you one thing. There is so much going on just in America, not even counting the whole world. There is so much going on. Every week, there's so much news that we Christians need to know about. Well, this week, one big thing happened, and that was the addressing to the State of the Union address, I think is how they call it, by our current president, Joe Biden. So I say, go, Joe, go.
The President of the United States.
Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today. What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas. My predecessor and some of you here seek to bury the truth about January 6th. I will not do that. This is the moment to speak the truth and to bury the lies. Here's the simple truth. You can't love your country only when you win. It's a decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court majority wrote the following, and with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about that. Those bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue about the power of women, but they found out. When reproductive freedom was on the ballot, we won in 2022 and 2020, and we'll win again in 2024. In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it. I'm ready to fix it. Send me the border bill now. Israel has the right to go after Hamas. Israel also has a fundamental responsibility, though, to protect innocent civilians in Gaza. I've been working nonstop to establish an immediate ceasefire that would last for 6 weeks to get all the prisoners released, all the hostages released, to get the hostages home and ease the intolerable and humanitarian crisis. And thanks to our bipartisan infrastructure law, 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. I like it. I'm with you. I'm with you. My fellow Americans, the issue facing our nation isn't how old we are. It's how old are our ideas. Hate, anger, revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas. But you can't lead America with ancient ideas that only take us back. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together.
With us now, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York. Senator, I have been saying this morning, I've been in a few of these. I don't think I've ever seen any State of the Union in all my time where one party was back on their heels as much as Donald Trump's MAGA party was last night.
You bet. Call me giddy, call me exhilarated. Joe, this speech showed that America is strong and Joe Biden is strong. And you are right. One of the most fascinating scenes for me was the sullenness of the Republicans. They weren't out there yelling and screaming. A few, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Republicans were sitting there looking at their faces. It was a great moment when he talked about how President Trump had lied.
If you're tired, you probably watched my address last night. I got my usual warm reception from Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene. In my address, I spoke about how far we've come since we took office. I talked about how much is at stake. Folks, our freedoms really are on the ballot this November. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are trying to take away our freedoms. That's not an exaggeration. Well, guess what? We will not let him. We will not let him. Last night, in the U.S. Capitol, the same building where our freedoms came under assault in January the 6th, we talked about another Alabama. 14 months ago, she and her husband welcomed a baby girl thanks to another Alabama, thanks to the miracle of IVF. She scheduled treatments to have a second child, but the Alabama Supreme Court shut down IVF treatments across the state, unleashed by the U.S. Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. She was told her dream would have to wait. What her family has gone through should never have happened. And folks, do you know why it happened? I'll tell you why. One reason, Donald Trump. He came to office determined to overturn Roe v. Wade. In fact, he's bragged about it repeatedly, that he's the reason it got overturned. He got his wish. And states are passing bans, criminalizing doctors, forcing rape and incest victims to leave their state to get care. And now, MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump want to pass a national ban on the right to choose, period. Well, take it seriously, folks, because that's what they're still heading for. Hear me loud and clear. This will not happen on my watch. The decision to Thank you. The decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court majority wrote, women are not without electoral power or political power. Clearly, these bragging... Anyway. Those bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue about the power of women in America. No clue. They found out when reproductive freedom was on the ballot in 2022 and 2023, and they'll find out again in 2024. We have. I inherited an economy that was on the brink, excuse me. Now our economy is the envy of the world. 15 million new jobs in just 3 years. That's a record in American history. Unemployment hit a 50-year low. 800,000 new manufacturing jobs and counting. As I said when I started, where is it written that we can't be the manufacturing capital of the world again? Wages are up and inflation is coming down. Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3%. We made so much progress, so now let's talk about the future we can build, because we have more to do. Look, the future where the days of trickle-down economics are over and the wealthy, the biggest corporations begin to pay their fair share. God love them. For example, Americans pay more, as the pharmacist can tell us, the doc can tell us, for prescription drugs than anywhere else in the world. It's wrong. And I've been fighting the pharmaceutical industry since I was in the Senate for over 30 years. But guess what? We're ending it. In the law I proposed and signed, no one, not one Republican voted for it, but we finally beat Big Pharma. Instead of paying $400 a month, for example, on insulin for seniors, they only have to pay $35. And by the way, it only costs $10 to make. They're still paying. They're still getting a big profit. But look, I'm not stopping there. Let's cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for every American who needs it, not just seniors. I finally beat Big Pharma, and now we're giving Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices for prescription drugs, just like the VA does for our military. This doesn't just save seniors money, it's saving taxpayers billions of dollars, cutting the deficit. Now it's time to give Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices for even more drugs. You know, it's going to save the taxpayers another $200 billion. You already saved $160 billion off your taxes because the Medicare doesn't have to pay that bill. Folks, starting next year, the bill I got passed, we're capping the total prescription drug cost for seniors on Medicare at $2,000 a year, even for expensive cancer drugs that cost $10,000, $12,000, $14,000, $15,000 a year. And my goal next year, let's do that for all of America. All of America. Let's cap prescription drug costs at $2,000 a year for everyone. And folks, the Affordable Care Act is still a very big deal. Over 100 million Americans can no longer be denied health insurance because of pre-existing conditions. But Donald Trump has announced he wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act. His Republican colleagues tried 49 other times in the last since Obamacare was passed. But it's not going to happen on my watch. Look, I'm also working to bring down the cost of housing. I'm proposing an annual tax credit that will give Americans $400 a month over the next 2 years to put toward their mortgage, if then. And folks, we're cracking down on big landlords who break antitrust laws by price fixing and driving up rents. Now Congress needs to pass my plan to build and renovate 2 million affordable homes and apartments and bring those rents down. And by the way, a lot of my Republican friends, that's costing a lot of money raising the deficit. Guess what? We cut the deficit. They cut the deficit. $1 trillion. Last guy ballooned the deficit. We passed a budget deal that will cut another $1 trillion over the next decade. They kept trying to get out of it, but they finally agreed. And now, it's my goal to cut the federal deficit by $3 trillion more, by making big corporations the very wealthy. And I'm a capitalist, man, anyway. You can go make $1 million bucks, you make $1 billion, good for you. But pay your taxes. Let's invest in, and let's continue to invest in the future by confronting the climate crisis, not denying it. I don't know. I was watching on television last night about 2 in the morning after we got back to the house. The White House. Still hard to think of it as home. I had the TV on, and there was a Fox News commentator saying, you know, Biden is changing from trickle-down economics to build from the middle out and the bottom up. It's going to ruin America. Ruin America. We have the strongest economy in the world right now. Like I said, Well, like I said, and I mean this sincerely, I believed it my whole career, finally got it done. If we focus on the middle class, first of all, they're the heart, soul, and sinew of the country. If you focus on them and give them an even chance, the poor have a way up, and the wealthy still do very, very well. Still do very well. As I said, I'm a capitalist. But capitalism, when it turns to engaged in non-competition, it ends up being just stealing. That's who he's meeting with. I see a future where we defend democracy, not diminish it. I see a future where we defend our freedom, not take them away. I see a future where the middle class has a fair shot and the wealthy pay their fair share. And I see a future where the planet move from the climate crisis in our country away from the gun violence that we have so much. I see a future where America remains the beacon of the world. I've been doing foreign policy since I was a kid in the Senate. I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. And I've gone now, I spent over almost 200 hours with the leaders of Europe, the heads of state. I know them all. I've known them well. And guess what? You know what every one of them says to me, virtually except Orban? I'm serious. As we leave these meetings, well, indirectly, they grab my arm and they pull me aside. I'm serious. They pull me aside and say, "You've got it. You can't win again. Because my democracy, meaning their country, my democracy is at stake. My democracy is at stake." Folks, above all, I see a country for all Americans, a future for all of Americans, a presidency for all of Americans. Because I believe in America, I believe in you, the American people. We just have to remember who in hell we are. We're the United States of America. And there's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Well, I say go, Joe, go. He didn't look tired. He didn't look sleepy. He didn't look old. Down there in the halls of Congress, at the Capitol, when he did his State of the Union address, he was right on top of all the little quips and all the little mess people threw at him. He had something back for him. Very quick on his feet. And then he went on the campaign stump, and he still looks pretty energetic. He still is giving really great ideas. And he is making some positions that, as far as I'm concerned, are positions that I agree with. I'll just say it that way. What do you have to say, honey?
Well, first thing I'll say is that, when we give you this, the Gap News, as I indicated, it's to keep you up on the current events of what's going on. And the reason it's important is that in this situation, we're not telling you who to vote for. We just want to give you the information so that you can make an informed and educated decision about who you want to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
And you may look at this and say, well, they're giving all the play to Joe Biden, but I will tell you this: if you want to know what Donald Trump's position or whatever it is, just turn on the news. He gets so much airtime that it's hard for anybody else to get a word in edgewise.
Mm-hmm.
So now you get to see this perspective. You can turn on the news and whatever. I mean, it's all over the place. Find out what the other side says and then make a decision. Like I said, I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat, and I'm independent, and so I don't. It's up to you to decide who you want to vote for. Maybe you feel that Marble or I or whatever may be leaning toward a certain candidate or whatever, but that's our personal choice as to what it is that we want to do, and we make it based upon information, and we just want you to do that. Now I'll tell you this: uh, that Gap News plays right into what we're going to talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you keep your eyes open and your mind open and your ears open, your spiritual ears and your spiritual eyes, then this is going to be very rewarding for you. I think the Gap News was good, sweetie.
Well, thank you. I know this was Joe Biden's take on things, but he told you what Donald Trump said he would do. So that's in there. But and maybe I'll do a Gap News on what Trump says he'll do. Although we did talk about that last week with that Project 2025. That's one thing that we know that is in the plan. So
Yeah, we gave that some air, didn't we?
and we gave that some air. Well, that needed to get some air because people don't know about that. But that's the plan for the if there's a conservative quote unquote Republican president in 2025, they have a plan, and it's pretty scary actually. All right, honey, that's all I got.
All right, well, let's get into the study.